Well, one of the byproducts of the Hollywood actors and writer strikes have been the postponing of award shows. Pleasure to be joined right now by Adam Sharp, who's president and CEO of the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences, which administers the Daytime Emmy Awards, which were postponed in part due to the strikes. Adam, great to have you with us. Thanks very much for your time today.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
So take us through what this process has been like the last couple of months, because I would imagine you had to plan for a while, and then obviously you had to think about putting it off. And then now we get the strike, and it's really kind of been probably quite the mess the last couple of months.
Well, it's funny. After a few years of pandemic, we entered this year saying, great, we can finally get back to normal. And I think we spoke a little too soon. I think that it's definitely been a fresh challenge. I think the pandemic certainly gave us a bit of the muscle memory for flexibility and for having a lot of plan Bs, Cs, all the way down to plan Zs, and thinking about different what ifs. And a lot of our meetings have said, this reminds us a lot of March of 2020, where we weren't sure quite yet that things were completely off. It was, okay, we'll move it a month. We'll move it a couple of weeks. We'll start holding a few future dates for when this all passes. 2021 was actually probably the easiest of the pandemic years because we went into the year knowing we weren't doing any shows. It was just a simple binary, no in-person events. But 2020 was still sliding things around, playing it by ear. 2022 was the same thing in reverse. And so we had a bit of practice, obviously different circumstances, but a lot of the tactical reactions to that wound up being the same. And so for the Daytime Emmys, we were keeping a close eye on each of the guilds. Certainly this spring, we had 3 guilds in play: SAG-AFTRA, WGA, and the Directors Guild. The directors did reach a deal with the AMPTP, and so that came off the table, but the other 2 are out on strike. And so that keeps this up in limbo for the time being.
So in terms of the Daytime Emmy Awards, is one of the strikes more important to going ahead with the Daytime Emmy Awards than the other, or would you like to see them both kind of solved and off the books and then move forward?
We would like to see both of them solved. Our intent is that we will not move forward with the Daytime Emmys as long as either guild is out on strike. As a technical matter, a legal matter, the WGA strike is the more limiting. And part of that is because the Daytime Emmys are a little bit different than perhaps some other award shows in that, number one, all award shows operate under a different contract than the SAG-AFTRA contract that is currently being struck. So technically, award shows themselves are not struck. You can still produce an award show under the current SAG-AFTRA regime. That is not necessarily true under the WGA strike. So right now, the ability to even produce a show is more restricted in technical terms by the WGA strike than by the actor strike. Now, where it gets more complicated is the ability of people to participate in the event. The actors for the Primetime Emmys, for example, that announced this morning that they are postponing to January, those actors working on primetime shows are on strike, and therefore they cannot go out and promote those shows. So even if you did have a Primetime Emmy show, they wouldn't be allowed to go to it. The stars of daytime soaps, on the other hand, they are under a different contract. So they're still working. They're not on strike. They could technically promote it, but a lot of them have other gigs at the same time to supplement their income. And those jobs are under strike. And so it gets very blurry there. And I think that we do not want to be in any situation where we are putting our members, many of whom we share with the Guild, in a conflicted position where they're coming to this event and wondering, wait, am I crossing a picket line or am I not? Am I violating some rule here? This is a night to celebrate achievement in the craft, to celebrate the community, and no one should be there feeling uncomfortable about it. And so we're not going to go there by threading the needle of legal technicality. And so for all intents and purposes, as long as either guild is out, the daytime Emmys are remaining postponed.
Well, you mentioned obviously the impact from the pandemic on the award shows the last couple of years. And I would think that really has started the process of you having to rethink your mindset about the potential impacts and events that could prevent an award show from going on. And maybe to a degree, it's a little bit of a different mindset than pre-pandemic, thinking about things like the facility, the hotel where you're going to do the show. That relationship, probably you have to write in probably different language than maybe you did pre-pandemic.
I think that every year the force majeure paragraph of these contracts gets a lot more creative. And every year you realize there's something else you forgot. Next year we'll be writing in, it's raining frogs, the rivers are boiling. I think though both these experiences have certainly been a stark reminder though of what our business is. I joked I became CEO only about a year before the pandemic. And so a lot of friends had asked me at the height of the pandemic, how's the job going? And I said, well, it's been an interesting time to lead a large public gatherings business. And I think part of that is because so much focus had been on the ceremonies. And what we began to realize during that period is that no, the ceremonies were simply an expression of the core business. The core business was ultimately that mission statement that's been the mission statement for years, which is to foster and recognize excellence. And that ceremony was one expression of that, but it's not the only way to express that. Ultimately, the actual judging of the competitions, the recognition with an Emmy award, the celebration of achievement in that regard, that's the coin of the realm. And you can toast with champagne, you can have dinner with your friends, you can go up on stage and celebrate it, but that's all window dressing. It heightens it, but it's not core. And so I think each of these experiences, as we look to try to find a silver lining in them, it's that it served to be a strong reminder to us and our community what is the core of our business, and not to be distracted by the things that may wind up being the biggest drivers of time and expense and energy, and instead focus on what really is the core value proposition, the driver of what we do, and what keeps that relationship going with our community.
What was it that you were most looking forward to with this year's show? An element, a celebration? What was it?
It was the 50th anniversary. It was the golden anniversary. So it was a special year, half a century of daytime Emmys. We were going to be celebrating two icons with Lifetime Achievement Awards, Susan Lucci and Maury Povich. Susan Lucci, of course, famously the longest running nominee without winning until the streak was broken, for her role as Erica Kane on All My Children. Maury Povich, the longest running daytime talk show host in history, that being a whole career arc after already having broken molds on the entertainment news side and so forth. Those, I think, are two big parts of the shows that we're really excited to move forward on. We're going to look back a bit over the 50 years. Hopefully we'll still be able to do that this year. If not, if the strikes persist well into next year and it winds up becoming some sort of hybrid 50th and 51st, we'll still do that celebration.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think those were the highlights we were planning for.
I read that the issue of transparency is also one that is as talked about a lot in regards to the award show, and take us into a little bit about why that component is so important right now.
Well, at the end of the day, and we talked earlier about that Emmy statue over my shoulder. What separates us from the trophy company down the street selling Little League trophies is not the value of the zinc and gold that goes into the statue itself. It is the value that we place on it through the integrity of the brand and the process. The reason networks and studios will spend thousands of dollars on entering the competition, on attending the ceremonies, on celebrating and promoting when they are nominated and they win, is because they have belief in the integrity of the process that adjudicated that piece of content truly was the most outstanding in its field, in its craft, in that television year. And at a time when I think across society, faith in institutions is probably at a generational low, it puts even more pressure on organizations like ours, I think, to be transparent and show the homework in order to maintain that trust in the process, to maintain that faith that the integrity is there, that it is a fair process, that if something is truly being named the best, it is getting there through an equitable adjudication and not through some gamesmanship or favoritism.
Well, Adam, we certainly look forward to the Daytime Emmy Awards when they occur at some point, and get these strikes all put back to pushed away, and everybody can get back to work. Thanks very much for giving us a few moments today.
Thank you.
Adam Sharp, President and CEO of the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences.